So imagine this, that you don't have your own fuel and you have to fill up at some dodgy spot in a remote area like this. I'm lucky I've got my own fuel, which I think is clean. But is it really? Welcome to another episode of Four Wheeling SA, and in this episode we're going to look at the need of having a second diesel filter. So I was recently approached by Ultra Fine Depth Filtration, UDF, to install a second diesel filter. Now what I did is I've installed it in the Fortuner and I've installed it in another vehicle. Now just to give the background is what can go wrong if you don't have a second diesel filter. You can put in some very dirty fuel and that will go through your engine and that will damage your injectors. Now if you damage your injectors, the cylinder temperature might go up, you can damage your turbo, or you can even melt a piston, which is quite catastrophic. If it happens away from home, it's even worse, but you will be in for a hefty repair bill. So what you want to do is you want to have something after your OEM filter, because then you allow the OEM filter to still do its work, and if anything goes through, it will be caught by the secondary fuel filter, so you're not really interfering with the OEM filtration system. So the UDF filter filters much finer than your OEM filter. But to understand what's the difference between the two, I've sat down with Dean from UDF to give me an explanation on what's the difference between your OEM filter and the UDF filter.
Does it fit in? Why would I want to fit an extra filter on my vehicle, which should be okay if I buy it from my OEM?
Yeah,
in terms of the filter.
Okay, yeah. So thanks for the opportunity in coming to see us. I think we don't get enough people to actually understand what the product is, and people say, "Oh, we'll put in an extra filter on." It's a grudge purchase because the OEMs or the factory filters are good enough for what we need. But the bottom line is the fuel in Africa is of the same standard, and it's a substandard fuel to what is designed in the vehicles. So our product is just an insurance product or insurance policy that when you put in bad fuel, you're going to get to your destination with your family in that vehicle. The last thing you want to do is get stuck anywhere in Africa or anywhere even in South Africa on the side of the road. So our filter now protects your liability, which is your vehicle, and turns it into an asset. No OEMs warrant injectors and pumps. If you put dirty fuel in, you're on your own. You've got to now pay 20,000, 30,000 rand to have that vehicle repaired. So by fitting the filter, we filter down to half a micron. Now, in layman terms, that means we take out the sea sand and the factory filter takes out the nuts and bolts or the rocks as such.
So you will basically install the filter after the OEM filter.
Correct. The next thing the guys are going to say to you is you're going to cause a restriction, because now you filter into half a micron and the filter is now going to block up prematurely and cause a restriction on the flow with the filter. We've done extensive testing on it to make sure that the flow doesn't get jeopardized. Okay, yes, the flow will slow down when the filter starts to block, but you'll get that telltale sign of the vehicle down in power, so you know let's change the element. If you carry on driving it, you're going to stand on the side of the road. The filter is only as good as the people looking after it.
Yes.
You abuse your car, the tires are going to fall off. Simple sign. Okay, so by filtering down to half a micron, we're filtering down below the tolerances of the injector. So this is what an injector looks like, common injector. Okay, there's an injector. Fuel comes in through the top, comes down all the way and gets sprayed out the nozzles into the chamber. So now, if this is 2 microns and you're filtering down to 6 microns.
What does the OEM filter down to?
Roughly 6 microns. Yeah. So eventually you're going to get wear on the injector. You're going to get dribbling of the injector, overfueling, turbo failure, oil's going black. Now everyone says, oh, it's a normal thing for having black oil in a diesel. Yes, to a certain degree. But if that oil's staying in your hands and not coming off, you've got a problem. You're overfueling, you're sitting up, the oil's breaking down. The additives in oil can't do what it's supposed to do to protect the engine. So now I start to overfuel. As soon as I overfuel, temperatures of the engine rise, and the only place it can go out is a turbo failure. And then we get the situation where we've got here, where we motorist.
After the discussion, Dean also showed me what happens with your normal fuel filter if you're driving on a bad corrugated road. When it's shaking, what will happen with will the OEM filter or the standard filter still, does it work, or will the UDF filter really make a difference? And this is the experiment we came up with.
Show you the difference between standard filtration versus depth filtration. Now, UDF needs the standard filter to catch the nuts and bolts, and we catch all the sea sand in layman's terms. Scientifically, 6 to 10 microns, UDF 0.5 microns. People are going to say, yeah, but we restrict the flow. That's why the cartridge is so big compared to the standard filter, because we have to allow for so much more flow and dirt that we catch through. So I'm going to contaminate it with a molly. So this just gives you the idea of dirt with the naked eye of what the test's actually going to do. You can see we're making it black. And doctor it a little bit more. Okay, so now you can see what the container looks like. I'm going to switch the UDF off. I'm going to just run it through the standard filter, and then I'll put a sample into the bottle so you can see what it looks like. Let it just bleed. You can see the dirt out swirling. Okay, you can see the part going in, coming out. Okay. Over there. Put it up there. Now I'm going to switch the UDF on. Switch this off.
So this is basically what came through the standard.
That's what came through your standard filter. You can see the dirt swirling, coming in. It's going dirty, coming out it's clean. There it is in. So if I leave it running now, I'll show you another test. So the standard filter's off now. I'm just cleaning up the bowl a little bit. Okay, so now I'm going to open up the OEM filter just so we can clean it. So now I've dumped all the dirt out of the OEM filter, what it had held. Let's put the lid on here so we don't spill. Okay, so the UDF is just cleaning up the bowl now to show you the next visual, what happens on a dirt road, or if you get pulsation on a standard filter. Okay, so now I'm just going to switch off the standard filter. You can see it switched off. We're only running through the UDF. Okay, now I'm going to bump the UDF. Okay, see no visual changes on the dirt releasing. It's the same?
Yes.
Okay, now I'm going to switch over. Okay.
It's putting back all the dirt.
So it will hold the dirt, the little fingers hold the dirt, and as soon as there's any pressure or vibration, it releases all the dirt. Then it will hold the dirt, release all the dirt. Whereas the UDF is, because it's a depth filter, it's so deeply wound that the dirt goes in and gets held in the filter and gets stuck. So the UDF is designed to block, it's designed to hold the dirt and not release it, where standard filter will hold it and release it.
So after my recent trip to Namibia, I took out my filter and I took it to UDF and we cut it open. And I was quite surprised when we cut it open to see that there was definitely some dirt that went through the OEM filter. And I think one of the reasons is because of the bad corrugations, that is basically shaking like we've just now seen, and that's how particles probably went through it and ended up in the UDF filter. And there was actually a Botany or something like that. There was a fuel station where they said you can only fill up with 20 liters because they're running low, and that means you were probably in the bottom diesel, or the diesel in the bottom of the tank, which could be quite contaminated. And I didn't have a choice. I had to fill up with it. So it gave me peace of mind. And the dirt particles that go through or that went through is probably from that batch of fuel. I didn't want to leave it there, so I did a test on another vehicle, And luckily for me, I use a pretty safe filling station. It's a Sasol across the road from me. And when we open up the filter, it was clear there was not much that got through. But again, you might end up at a town where there's a small station that doesn't really service the tanks, and you might end up with a bit of dirt in your filter, or in your fuel. So what I did is I've decided, but I need to speak to people who've been using this filter for many years. I've used it now for 3-4 months, but what about somebody that's using it frequently, that go to various countries, different countries, not even in Africa, but overseas? And for that, I hook up with Frans at Voetspore, just to give me a better understanding of how they are using the filter, maybe some issues they've had with it, and also, since they are installing it, what's their point of installing these filters?
Okay, Francois, I've got you here. You're from the Voetspore Fitment Center. You've dealt with UDF in the past. You are also using the product on your vehicles. Can you maybe tell me a bit more with your experience on this, on the UDF filter, when you started using it, why you are using it, and how has it helped you in your trips over Southern Africa and beyond?
Yeah, Henk, good day. Yeah, it's nice to talk to you. Yeah, we obviously, with the travels we've had and we've done in the past 24 years, I think fuel is always a problem. We've done the water thing, we've seen it all, we've had it all. We've bought fuel next to the road, forced to from bottles, and we've seen all kinds of things. And yes, and then once a problem occurs, you have to do something about it. And we started our homework to see what will work for us and what's efficient and easy to replace. That's also important. And it's about, I think, 8 years now, eight or so years, we started using UDF. And well, up till today, we're still using it. So we are very, very happy with the performance. And like I said, it's easy to change it next to the road. Just make sure you've got your extra filter. But yeah, we were basically forced to look into something.
Yeah, and I would think it's also in cases where you, like you said, you get to a place and there's only a little can of fuel available. So what do? You need to buy it.
Yeah.
And it will give you the assurance that, okay, it's okay, I can put it in unprotected with it. And I think you also use it in the engines. When they came out, the V8 on the cruisers, they said they're quite finicky with fuel. And I think that helps you as well.
They are sensitive. You mentioning the cruiser. I think all the cruiser owners will know that that fuel light comes on quite quickly, which is good. It's maybe in my books too sensitive, but you can never be too careful. So that's good, and that's another thing what I like about the system. The UDF, they don't interfere with your manufacturer.
Yeah.
The filter system's always after the manufacturer's built-in system, just before it reaches your engine.
Yes.
So if you're in a case on a specific place where it's impossible to change the standard filter on the vehicle, and the light is on, at least you know that you're still fine. Because the UDF, I think it breaks down to anything bigger than 0.5 microns. And I mean, you still have that safety. So, it might take you another couple of 1,000 kilometers before you can actually change your vehicle filter. But at least it gives you that assurance that the engine is safeguarded by this.
Yeah, so even if your factory fuel filter fails or that stops working, you still have a backup, something that will catch us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, we're very happy. And like I said, it's not a water filter as such. It's more a extra nappy to make sure of the dirt. And the way it's constructed, and the way, if you look at it, corrugated roads and all that, it doesn't shake out of it. The dirt doesn't come out.
Yes.
It remains within the filter, and that's what you want.
Yes.
So yeah, we're very happy, and I think we'll still stick with them for a long time. There are other great products on the market. We've had a look at it, but which is unfair. But why change the menu if the restaurants?
If it's working, yes.
So that's where we are with it, as far as the filters.
And how frequently do you replace your filters?
How long is a string? Depends on the countries we go to. It depends on how often our standard filter light comes on.
Yes.
Then we realize that there is fuel problems here.
Yes.
And then we would do it within 5, max 5, but otherwise 10,000 kilos.
Yes,
And then I'm comfortable with that.
okay. That's basically what UDF says
Yeah.
as well. Basically, when you replace your standard fuel filter, you replace
That's right.
that as well. So the two.
Yeah, unless an emergency. Like I
Yeah.
said, then we do it.
Okay, no. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And enjoy yours. I believe you also are using it and you are happy this far?
I've started using it now for about 3,000-4,000 kilometers. So it's an ongoing trial, and after this we will open up the filter and see what it did catch. And I'm using it. I'm using one in day-to-day conditions, normal tar roads, and then the other one that I'm using was in my vehicle, my Fortuner, which I've used now just for a Namibian trip. So it will be interesting to see if fuel is actually safe in Namibia, or even if we think it's safe, what goes through it.
I think I want to add something, because just for your viewers, information is always, and we all know that nothing is perfect. The only negative thing I've picked up over the years was that, and it's because it's doing such a good job. If you're in a place and you wake up at a place like Sutherland at -10, your vehicle won't start because it's all iced up. And that's exactly what it needs to do. It's caught up the water and everything. So make sure when you do go to places that's extremely cold, that you do have a spare extra filter, which you can actually change back later on, or else just leave a little bit later. But that is the only disadvantage, and it's actually not a bad thing.
Yeah, that's maybe just another question which is good to ask. How many spares would you recommend somebody carry with them? I know you can't look at a 3-month trip, but if you just say you go to Botswana for a month or to Namibia for 2 weeks, how many spares would you carry?
I think it depends on the country that you approach. I think if it's Namibia, Botswana, SADC countries, one set of filters is sufficient. But if you really start going Cairo, Tanzania, Cameroon, those kinds of places, I'll make sure you take about 3 sets.
Yeah. Okay, Francois. Here we just have an installation in a cruiser, just to show the setup of the installation. So maybe just take us through the installation for this cruiser, and obviously I've got a Fortuner which I will show as well. But just I think maybe highlight the importance of getting somebody professional to install it for you, although it comes in a DIY kit. But maybe just take us through the installation and why it's important to have somebody install it for you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of guys that's really technical out there and handy and can do a lot of things themselves, and I'm sure that's happening already. But I would really suggest that you do make use of your local fitment center so that you get the right advice. As you mentioned, you'll see the V8 cruisers have 2. It's all part of the actual flow liters per minute, and the pump relation to the pump size and the speed. So even the custom brackets, and also to make sure that you don't interfere with the actual warranty of your vehicle. So I would really suggest, you might save a couple of rands in trying to do it yourself, but to be safe and to really optimize in using the UDF, I would suggest that you just let the approved fitment center do the installation for you. You got to do a little bit of planning also, and beforehand you need to know if you're going to have a second-wheel battery system within the bonnet. I mean, you go lithium, I wouldn't suggest that. Then the space is available again. But in general, I think have a good discussion, do your homework, speak to a couple of guys, speak to your fitment centers, and be careful of Google and the friends. But other than that, it's like any other thing you do and you plan with your vehicle. I can never warn people enough is to do your homework.
Yes.
There's a lot of clever plans out there, and around the Brightflace fires.
I can do it for cheaper.
You will not believe the stories I can tell you and that I've heard. Sometimes I shrink. But yes, you can never gain enough information before you do anything on your car.
Have you had any problems with Toyota not honoring warranties because of this filter?
Not at all. In fact, when we do a TV series, the 3 currently cruisers that we use belongs to Toyota South Africa, and they know we install this. But the fact that it's done after the Toyota system, that's important.
Yeah.
But we've never had a problem. There was no warranty issues, but there's never been an issue. So no, not from Toyota. I can't vouch for any other dealerships or manufacturers at this stage, but no.
So yeah, I hope that discussion gave you a bit of a different perspective, and for me it's something, the cost really, there's barely any negatives, and seeing that you have to replace these filters basically at the same service interval of your vehicle, which is what, once a year, maybe twice a year, the peace of mind that you will have from it is just, it's totally worth it for me. I will keep on using these filters, and yeah, I hope this gave you some background on why you should consider it, how it fits in, if it's safe or if it's not safe. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this episode. I'll see you on the next one.